Family chose my sister's party over my baby, so I exposed their lies. They lost everything. I gained freedom and a new life. At 7 months pregnant, every task felt monumental, yet I'd pushed through, driven by a quiet, stubborn joy, the kind that comes from building something for someone you already love more than yourself. My apartment was small, a one-bedroom rental I'd made my own after everything fell apart, and it was my sanctuary now. Standing there, one hand resting on my swollen belly, I felt the faint, fluttering kicks of my baby, a reminder that I wasn't alone, not really. But that fragile peace shattered with a single buzz from my phone. It was a text from Tara, my best friend since high school. "You see this?" Attached was a photo that stopped my breath. My parents, my older sister Kate, and her fiancé Ryan stood together, dressed in sleek black tie attire, grinning under the glow of chandeliers at some upscale venue. The caption read, "Celebrating Kate and Ryan's big night." My stomach twisted into a knot so tight I thought I might be sick. Kate's engagement party, the one my mom had sworn they couldn't afford to throw, the one they'd canceled plans for because times were tough. I'd believe them, why wouldn't I? For months, they'd leaned on me, asking for money to cover bills, groceries, even Kate's wedding dress. I'd given it all, dipping into my savings, thinking we were a team weathering hard times together. I swiped through more photos Tara sent, champagne towers sparkling in the light, a live band playing in the background, my parents raising glasses with guests I didn't even know. My chest tightened until it hurt to breathe. They hadn't just lied, they'd cut me out completely. I was weeks from giving birth, my life revolving around doctor visits and nursery prep, and they'd chosen Kate's party over me. My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. "Sweetie, can you send $200? We're short for the electric bill." I stared at the screen, the audacity of it burning through me like acid. After everything, they still expected me to pay? I didn't reply. For the first time in years, I let the silence sit, heavy and deliberate. Memories flooded in, sharp and uninvited. Years of being the helpful one in our family. Kate had always been the star, the golden child with her dazzling smile and big dreams. She was the one my parents bragged about at every Thanksgiving, the one whose every milestone, graduation, promotion, engagement, was a family event. I was Ellie, the quiet one, the steady one, the daughter who worked overtime at a call center to keep the lights on for everyone. "Ellie, can you cover Kate's car payment? She's in a pinch." "Ellie, the kids need school supplies. Kate's too busy." I'd done it all without hesitation, handing over cash, writing checks, transferring funds through my phone. Because that's what family does, right? You stick together. You help. But that photo told a different story. They didn't need me to survive. They needed me to fund their lives while they left me in the shadows. I called Tara, my voice trembling as I paced my tiny living room, the crib half-assembled behind me. "They lied to me, Tara. They're at her party. Fancy, expensive, and they didn't even invite me. I'm sitting here pregnant, and they're celebrating her." She sighed, her voice soft but firm. "I figured you didn't know. I saw it online and I'm so sorry, Elle." "Why?" I whispered, sinking onto the couch, my free hand cradling my belly. "Why am I always the one they forget?" Tara paused, and when she spoke, her words cut deep. "Because they know you'll take it. You've always been the one who doesn't push back." I closed my eyes, letting that sink in. She was right. I'd spent my life bending, giving, fading into the background so they could shine. And they'd banked on it. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, Kate's smug smile flashing in my mind. Her arm looped through Ryan's, my parents' proud grins glowing in those photos. I replayed every time they'd asked for help, every excuse they'd fed me. "We're stretched thin, Ellie." Kate's got so much on her plate. I'd believed it, every word, because I wanted to trust them. But now I saw the truth. They'd played me for years, and I'd let them. My phone lit up again, Mom's voicemail. "Ellie, we really need that money. Call me back. It's urgent." Urgent. Like her party wasn't. I deleted it, my hands shaking with a mix of hurt and something new. Anger, cold and steady, settling into my bones. The next morning, I didn't call back. Instead, Kate texted, "Hey sis, missed you last night. Hope you're okay." The fake cheer made my skin crawl. She hadn't missed me. She hadn't even thought of me. I didn't respond, my fingers hovering over the screen before setting the phone down. I needed to know how deep this went. I opened my banking app, scrolling through months of transactions. Hundreds here, 1,000 there, all sent to Mom, Dad, or Kate for emergencies. Then Tara sent another photo. Kate in a stunning designer dress, captioned, "Feeling like a queen." I recognized it. I'd paid for it, a wedding expense she'd begged me for. My blood boiled, heat rising in my cheeks. They'd taken my money, my trust, and turned it into their fairy tale while I sat alone, stitching together a life they didn't care about. I wasn't just angry, I was done. Walking away might have been enough for some, but not for me. They'd built their perfect little world on my sacrifices, and I wanted them to feel the weight of that betrayal. Tara came over that afternoon, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun, her eyes sharp with concern. She dropped onto my couch, kicking off her sneakers. "What's the plan, Elle?" I paced, the ultrasound photo on my fridge catching my eye. A grainy image of my baby, my reason to fight. "They're throwing a big family brunch next weekend," I said. "Everyone's invited. Cousins, aunts, Kate's in-laws. Except me, I'm betting." Tara smirked, leaning forward. "Let's crash it." I shook my head, a spark igniting in my chest. "Not crash. Expose." She tilted her head, intrigued. "Expose how?" I stopped pacing, meeting her gaze. "I've got records, transfers, texts, voicemails. Proof they've been lying, using me while they live it up. I want them to see it, all of it, in front of everyone." Tara's grin widened, slow and wicked. "Oh, this is good. When they're all toasting Kate's perfect life, you drop the bomb." I nodded, the idea solidifying. "Exactly. They think I'll stay quiet, keep giving, keep disappearing. They're wrong." She clapped her hands together, laughing. "Now we're talking. Let's make them regret ever underestimating you." I spent the rest of the day digging deeper, pulling up every transaction I could find. $500 for Dad's car repair, $300 for Kate's venue deposit, $200 for Mom's groceries. It added up to thousands, money I'd scrimped for while they splurged. Tara brought coffee, sitting cross-legged on my floor as we sifted through it all. "They're shameless," she muttered, shaking her head at a photo of Kate on a beach trip I'd unknowingly funded. "How did I not see this?" I asked, more to myself than her. She looked up, her expression softening. "Because you're good, Elle. You trusted them. That's not your fault. It's theirs." By nightfall, my resolve was ironclad. They'd chosen Kate's party over me, over my baby, thinking I'd roll over like always. But I wasn't that Ellie anymore. I had proof, a plan, and Tara in my corner. The brunch would be their stage, until I turned it into mine. They'd feel every ounce of what they'd done, and I'd make sure they never forgot it. Update 2. The week stretched out like a tightrope, every day balancing my growing anger with a fierce determination I hadn't known I possessed. I stopped answering their calls. Mom's voice wavered with fake worry. Dad's gruff demands echoed through ignored voicemails, and Kate's texts dripped with saccharine concern I didn't buy for a second. Silence became my shield, a power they didn't expect me to wield. I spent hours in my apartment, the crib now fully assembled in the corner, piecing together the evidence of their betrayal. My phone held a treasure trove, screenshots of bank transfers, pleading texts for money, even a voicemail from Mom. "Ellie, we're broke. Kate needs help with the venue." Broke. While they danced under chandeliers at her party. Tara was relentless, digging into Kate's locked social media accounts, posts I'd been excluded from, ones she'd hidden from me with surgical precision. She sent me a folder of screenshots, vacations to the coast, dinners at upscale restaurants, all captioned with vague nods to family support. My support. I stared at a photo of Kate and Ryan on a ski trip, my parents beaming beside them, snow dusting their jackets. I'd been working double shifts that week, sending Mom $400 for heating bills. The lie stung, but it fueled me. They'd counted on my quiet nature, my willingness to fade away. I wasn't fading anymore. I needed more than feelings. I needed facts they couldn't twist. I called Nick, a tech-savvy friend of Tara's who'd once helped me recover a crashed laptop. He met me at a coffee shop, his laptop bag slung over his shoulder, his expression curious but professional. "What's this about, Ellie?" he asked, sliding into the booth across from me. I handed him a USB drive with my bank app logins and a list of dates. "My family's been lying to me, taking my money while claiming they're broke. I need proof." He raised an eyebrow, plugging the drive into his laptop. This could get messy. You sure? I nodded, my hand resting on my belly. I'm sure. Nick worked fast, pulling records from a shared family account I still had access to, something Mom had set up years ago for emergencies. He frowned at the screen, scrolling through transactions. This is wild, Elle. They've been siphoning your cash for years. Kate's car payments, Ryan's business loans, even a down payment on their condo. Meanwhile, they're telling you they're strapped? I leaned forward, watching the numbers roll by. That's them. What else? He clicked a few more times, his voice tightening. Your parents took out a personal loan last year. Said it was for medical costs. No medical bills here, just transfers to Kate. I clenched my fists, the betrayal sinking deeper. They're done, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. The brunch loomed, a family unity event at a swanky restaurant downtown, the kind with linen napkins and overpriced mimosas. Mom texted me the day before. Ellie, please come. We miss you. I almost laughed, the hypocrisy dripping from her words. Miss me, or my money? I didn't reply, but I'd be there, not as their savior, but as their reckoning. Tara and I mapped it out over takeout at my place, papers spread across my coffee table. We hit them with an email blast, I said, circling names on the guest list. Family, friends, Kate's in-laws, Ryan's business partners. Right when they're toasting their perfect life, it goes out to everyone. Tara grinned, popping a fry in her mouth. Boom, game over. Nick set it up, his fingers flying across his keyboard as he scheduled the email. I've attached everything. Bank records, texts, that voicemail. It'll hit at noon sharp, he said, glancing at me. You're sure about this? No going back. I nodded, my resolve ironclad. They've had years to come clean. This is on them. Tara squeezed my shoulder. They'll never see it coming. I hope not. I wanted them blindsided, just like I'd been at every turn. Their calls grew frantic as the week wore on. Dad left a voicemail, his tone sharp. Ellie, this isn't like you. Kate's worried. Help us out. Kate texted. Sis, I don't know why you're mad, but I need you. Things are tight. Tight. After a party with a live band? I ignored them, my focus narrowing to my baby's kicks, a steady rhythm grounding me in the chaos. Then Ryan called. His first time reaching out, his voice smooth and practiced. Ellie, let's talk. Kate's a mess over this. Can we sort it out? I saw through the charm, the same slick tone he'd used to win Kate. Tell her to cry in her designer dress. I snapped, hanging up. Tara, sprawled on my couch, high-fived me. That's my girl, ruthless. The night before the brunch, I couldn't sleep. My apartment was quiet, the crib casting long shadows in the moonlight. Nerves twisted my stomach. What if they spun it? What if no one cared? I padded to the kitchen, pouring a glass of water, my eyes landing on the ultrasound photo pinned to my fridge. A tiny profile, my son, my reason. Tara crashed on my couch that night, waking up to find me staring at it. You okay? She asked, rubbing sleep from her eyes. I nodded, clutching my glass. They've got no defense, right? She sat up, her voice firm. None. This isn't rumors. It's cold, hard proof. They're toast. Brunch day dawned bright and crisp. I dressed simply, jeans, a sweater, nothing to draw attention. Tara drove us to the restaurant, parking across the street where we could see through the wide windows. Inside, Mom wore her signature pearls, Dad adjusted his suit jacket, Kate glowed in a sundress, and Ryan worked the room like a politician. Guests mingled, cousins I hadn't seen in years, aunts with their usual gossip, Kate's in-laws with their pinched smiles. My phone read 11:55 a.m., 5 minutes until the email hit. My heart pounded, but I felt a strange calm, like the eye of a storm. Ready? Tara asked, her hand on the door handle. I nodded. Let's watch it burn. At noon, it began. Guests pulled out phones, one by one, their faces shifting, confusion first, then shock. Kate laughed at something Ryan said, her head thrown back, then froze as he whispered in her ear, his brow furrowing. Mom fished her phone from her purse, her smile vanishing like smoke. Dad's jaw tightened, his hand pausing mid-gesture. Whispers rippled through the room, heads turning, eyes darting. I stepped out of the car, Tara beside me, and walked toward the entrance, not to join them, but to witness the collapse. The hostess barely glanced at me, distracted by the growing buzz inside, and I slipped through the door. Kate saw me first, her face draining of color. Ellie. Her voice cracked, a mix of disbelief and fear. I didn't answer, just stood there, letting the weight of my presence settle over them. Mom rushed over, her heels clicking, her voice a low hiss. "What have you done?" I met her gaze, unflinching. "What you wouldn't," told the truth. She flinched, a rare crack in her composure, but I turned away, my eyes on Kate. She clutched Ryan's arm, her phone trembling in her hand, while he stared at his screen, his charm evaporating. Guests murmured, "She paid for this?" They lied to her, and I felt the tide shift, slow but unstoppable. I'd spent years giving them everything: money, time, trust, while they built a life that didn't include me. Now, they'd face the consequences, and I'd make sure they felt every second of it. The room was theirs no longer. It was mine, and I wasn't leaving until they understood that. Update 3. The restaurant hummed with chaos, a cacophony of gasps and whispers I'd set loose with a single email. Kate's eyes locked onto mine, wide with panic, her sundress suddenly looking too bright, too perfect for the unraveling scene. "Ellie, why?" she stammered, her voice breaking as she clutched her phone like it could erase the truth. Screenshots of her begging me for cash, photos of their lavish life funded by my sacrifices, bank records showing years of their greed laid bare. I didn't answer, letting her squirm in the silence. Ryan stepped forward, his polished demeanor cracking, his tie slightly askew. "This is a mistake, Ellie. Let's talk privately." I laughed, the sound sharp and cold, cutting through the murmurs. Too late for that. Mom grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging into my skin, her pearls glinting under the restaurant's soft lights. "You're ruining us," she hissed, her voice trembling with a mix of fury and fear. I yanked free, my sweater sleeve pulling up, exposing the faint red marks her grip left behind. "You ruined me first," I said, my tone even but laced with steel. Her face crumpled, but I saw no remorse, just the terror of losing her carefully curated world. Dad lumbered over, his suit jacket straining at the shoulders, his voice booming over the growing din. "Ellie, stop this nonsense now." Heads turned, phones lifted, guests recording every word. I held up my own phone, the email icon glowing on the screen. "It's already out, Dad. Everyone knows." His mouth snapped shut, his broad frame deflating as defeat flickered in his eyes. Kate's sobs broke through, loud and theatrical, drawing every eye in the room. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she cried, tears streaking her makeup, her hands flailing for sympathy. I stepped closer, my voice low enough for only her to hear, though the crowd leaned in. "You didn't mean to get caught. I paid for your dress, your car, your whole life, while you shut me out of yours." Her tears stopped abruptly, her mask slipping to reveal the panic beneath. Ryan muttered, "We'll fix this," his voice shaky, his hand hovering near her shoulder like he wasn't sure whether to comfort her or distance himself. Guests whispered louder. Kate's in-laws scowled, friends shifted uncomfortably, their champagne flutes forgotten on tables. Mom tried to salvage it, turning to a couple nearby with a forced smile, her voice syrupy. "Just a family misunderstanding." A woman cut her off, her tone sharp as she waved her phone. "This says you took her money for Kate's party. Is that true?" Mom froze, her smile faltering, her hands clutching her purse like a lifeline. I smirked, stepping back to give her space to flounder. "Go ahead, Mom, lie again." She didn't, her silence ringing louder than any excuse she could have spun. Dad slumped into a chair, his big hands resting on the table, staring at nothing as if the fight had drained out of him. Kate lunged toward me, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. "You're jealous. You've always hated me." I didn't flinch, my gaze steady. "I loved you, Kate. You chose this." The crowd parted as Ryan's parents approached, their faces carved with stern disapproval. His mother, a wiry woman in a tailored blazer, held up her phone, her voice clipped. "Kate, what's this about fraud?" Kate stammered, "It's not," but they turned to Ryan, ignoring her. "Fix this, or we're done," his father said, his tone final. Ryan paled, grabbing Kate's arm, whispering furiously in her ear, his composure unraveling. I watched, a strange lightness spreading through me with every crack in their facade. A server dropped a tray of glasses nearby, the crash punctuating the tension, and I almost laughed. It was almost too perfect, a soundtrack to their downfall. I didn't linger. "Enjoy the brunch," I said, my voice carrying over the room, loud enough for every guest to hear. Then I turned, Tara falling into step beside me as I headed for the exit. Outside, the cool air hit my face, and Tara grinned, her eyes sparkling with mischief. That was epic, Elle. I exhaled, the weight I'd carried for years lifting, if only slightly. It's not over yet, I said, glancing back at the restaurant's windows, where shadows moved in a frantic dance of damage control. Back at my apartment, my phone erupted, texts from cousins, aunts, even Kate's friends flooded in. Is this real? I had no idea. How could they? I didn't reply, letting the truth spread like wildfire through our extended family and beyond. Mom called an hour later, her voice thick with sobs through the voicemail. Ellie, we're so sorry. Please stop this. We're falling apart. I listened, my finger hovering over the delete button, then pressed it. Sorry didn't erase years of lies, didn't undo the nights I'd gone without so they could thrive. Kate tried next, a long, rambling text. I'm falling apart, Elle. Ryan's furious, his family's pulling out of the wedding. Help me, sis, please. I read it, picturing her smug grin from the party photos, then deleted it without a second thought. Tara sprawled on my couch, scrolling through social media on her phone, laughing as she read aloud. They're toast. Posts are everywhere. Kate's a fraud. Family scams pregnant sister. It's trending locally. I nodded, a faint smile tugging at my lips, but the victory felt bittersweet. I'd wanted them to see me, to acknowledge the daughter they'd dismissed, not just to tear them down. Nick texted later that afternoon. They're scrambling. Lawsuits might hit Kate for those loans she never repaid. You shook them hard. I sat on my floor, papers from our planning scattered around, and texted back, good, let them deal with it. That night, alone in my quiet apartment, I rested a hand on my belly, feeling my baby's gentle movements. We're free now, I whispered, my voice soft but firm. He kicked, as if agreeing, and I smiled, tears prickling my eyes. They'd underestimated me, thought I'd stay silent, fade into the background like always. They were wrong. I'd made them feel every ounce of their betrayal, and I wasn't finished. The next day, Tara brought coffee, her energy buzzing as she recounted the fallout. Your aunt called me, said your mom's a wreck, won't leave the house. Kate's hiding out somewhere. I sipped my decaf, the warmth steadying me. They brought it on themselves. She nodded, setting her cup down. What's next? You've got them on the ropes. I leaned back, my mind turning. They'll try to spin it, play victims. I need to make sure the truth sticks. Tara's eyes lit up. Another move? I nodded. Not yet. Let them squirm first. I spent the afternoon sorting through more evidence. Old emails, casual mentions of tight budgets that didn't match their spending. Every piece was a brick in the wall I'd built, a wall they couldn't climb. My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. Ellie, we need to talk. This has gone too far. Too far. They'd crossed that line years ago. I didn't respond, letting the silence stretch, a quiet rebellion against the family that had never truly been mine. Noah kicked harder, and I pressed my hand against the spot, whispering, we've got this. They'd chosen Kate's party over us, but I'd chosen us over them. And that was a power they couldn't take away. Update 4. Weeks slipped by after the brunch, and the fallout spread like ink through water, staining everything it touched. Kate's perfect life unraveled faster than I'd imagined. Ryan walked out, his family severing ties after the fraud claims in my email sparked a cascade of legal threats. Lawsuits piled up from people she'd scammed, business partners, friends, even a caterer she'd stiffed, each one chipping away at her facade. Her social media went dark, her endless stream of glamorous posts replaced by silence. My parents sold their house, the one they'd bragged about for years, downsizing to a cramped rental on the edge of town, their pride shattered into pieces too small to glue back together. They'd built their world on lies, propped up by my sacrifices, and without me as their crutch, it all came crashing down. I didn't gloat. I just watched from my quiet apartment, finally free. Mom tried reaching out a week after the brunch, her voice trembling through a voicemail. Ellie, we need you. Please talk to us. We're lost without you. I listened, my thumb hovering over the play button as her sobs crackled through the speaker, then deleted it. Dad texted a day later, his words clipped and stern. You've made your point, Ellie. Let's fix this. Come home. Too late. Home wasn't theirs anymore. It was mine, here with the crib in the corner and the ultrasound photo on my fridge. Kate's last message came a week after that, a desperate plea that stretched across my screen. I'm so sorry, Elle. I've lost everything. Ryan's gone, the wedding's off. I'm broke. Help me, sis, please. I'll do anything. I stared at it, remembering her smug grin in those party photos, the way she'd laughed while I struggled alone. I blocked her number, my hands steady, no trace of guilt lingering. Tara dropped by with takeout that night, her eyes gleaming as she kicked off her sneakers and sprawled on my couch. They're begging now, poetic justice, she said, digging into a carton of fried rice. I smiled faintly, cradling a mug of herbal tea, my belly too big now for anything heavier. They thought I'd cave, I said, glancing at the crib. They always did. She nodded, pointing her chopsticks at me. And now they're drowning without you. Kate's couch surfing. Heard it from your cousin. Your parents won't even show their faces at the grocery store. I sipped my tea, the warmth grounding me. They brought it on themselves. The family went silent after that. No more calls, no guilt trips, just an eerie quiet that settled over my days. Cousins filled me in through texts. Kate was crashing with friends, her designer wardrobe sold off to pay debts. My parents hid behind drawn curtains, avoiding the whispers that followed them everywhere. Their world had shrunk to a shadow of what it once was, and I wasn't part of it anymore. I turned my focus inward. My baby arrived a week later, a healthy boy I named Noah. Holding him, his tiny fingers curling around mine, I felt whole for the first time in years. The pieces they'd broken were mending, stitch by stitch, in the soft coos and sleepless nights of motherhood. My apartment became our haven, no longer a backdrop for their endless demands. Social media buzzed for weeks after the brunch. Some praised me, calling me brave. Others labeled me harsh, a family wrecker. I didn't care either way. Tara threw a small victory party, just the two of us, no one napping in his crib, pizza boxes stacked on my coffee table. She raised her soda can in a toast. You took them down, Elle, single-handedly. I clinked my water glass against hers, a tired smile tugging at my lips. I didn't take them down, I took me back. Her grin softened, her eyes warm. Even better. So what's next? I glanced at Noah, his chest rising and falling in sleep. A trip, somewhere sunny, far from here. Me and him. She clapped her hands. Yes, I'm invited, right? I laughed. Always. We planned it over the next few days. Nothing extravagant, just a beach rental a few hours away, a chance to breathe without their shadows looming. I deserved it. Noah deserved it. And for once, I didn't second-guess spending my money on myself. A month later, I saw Kate at the grocery store, thin, tired, her hair pulled into a messy ponytail, no trace of the designer glow she'd once worn like armor. She froze when she spotted me, her cart half full of cheap essentials. I pushed mine past, Noah gurgling in his carrier, but she stepped forward, her voice small. Ellie, wait, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how much I hurt you until now. Her eyes were red, the apology raw, maybe even real. I studied her, the sister I'd once idolized, now a stranger. I know you didn't, I said, my tone flat. That's why I had to show you. She swallowed, nodding faintly, and I moved on, leaving her in the aisle without a backward glance. Mom sent a letter a week after that, hand-delivered by a neighbor, her cursive sprawling across the page. We failed you, Ellie. We're paying for it now. Lost the house, lost Kate's trust, lost everything. Can we see Noah? We want to make it right. I read it in my kitchen, Noah babbling in his high chair, oatmeal smeared on his cheeks. I felt a pang. Memories of Mom's rare hugs, Dad's gruff pats on the back, but it faded fast. They'd lost that right years ago, traded it for Kate's spotlight. I tucked the letter into a drawer, not ready to answer. Maybe someday, when Noah was older, when their apologies meant more than desperation. For now, they'd wait. Life settled into a rhythm. Quiet mornings with Noah, evenings with Tara plotting our trip, nights where I'd sit by his crib, watching him sleep. They'd chosen Kate's party over me, over him, thinking I'd stay silent, keep giving, keep fading. I didn't. I fought, exposed them, and walked away stronger. Their empire of lies crumbled, and I built mine on truth, brick by brick. Justice wasn't loud or flashy. It was this. Me and Noah, a life they couldn't touch, a future I'd claimed for us alone. I thought about the brunch sometimes, the way their faces fell, the way the room turned against them. It wasn't revenge, it was survival, a line drawn in the sand they'd never cross again. Tara called it a win, but to me, it was freedom. Freedom from their expectations, their greed, their dismissal. Noah's first smile, his tiny hand gripping my finger, was worth more than any apology they could muster. They'd underestimated me, thought I'd always bend. They were wrong. I stood up, and I'd never kneel again.